Welcome back to another edition of the Gridiron Review. Alongside Bill Wagner, I'm Pete Medhurst. Great to have you with us. First week of youth football playoffs. Got some good highlights in here. Non-conference matchup with Old Mill and the Baltimore Terps. Because see, the first teams, the American teams, were off this week. But great Central and National Playoff Division action this past week. And Bill, even in the 11U, we had a field goal.
Jake Mazurski, 29-yard field goal to win it for the Bucs, right?
Not bad at all, my friend. You kick a field goal in 11U.
That's pretty good.
We're definitely doing something. We've also got highlights of SAC's 7U team against SRYA. SAC, the top team in 7U throughout the regular season. They appear to be on a collision course with the guys from Brooklyn Park again, as Brooklyn Park beat UQA 27-6. Now, you used to work for the Brooklyn News. That was like your first job with Capital Gazette newspapers, okay?
That's good memory.
Trust me, Hollis, I'm an elephant. I got it all right here. Have you ever been to the zoo, though?
No. Is that
I got to get you out to the zoo, right?
Is that what they call a field?
At Brooklyn Park Middle now, which used to be Brooklyn Park High School, where the baseball field was, is the only place I ever hit a home run in high school baseball. So that place will always be great to me. We got to take you out to the zoo to watch a game at Brooklyn Park. My boys Maples and Foe. They'll have you some food at the concession stand. They'll have you all hooked up. We'll take you out to the zoo one Saturday for some games.
I'm familiar with the facility because my kids played lacrosse there back when they were playing lacrosse. So I've been to that complex since they converted it from Brooklyn Park High School to the middle school, and it's not a bad little complex.
No, not at all. So we've got some highlights of the guys from Severn. They and Brooklyn Park, again, appear to be on a collision course there in that one. Also some Panthers highlights as well in the 9U. So congratulations to all of our teams, whether you won or lost in the opening week of the playoffs. And now we've got 2 more weeks of this postseason action to go coming up here. Now,
so it rained like crazy on Sunday morning. Did all the teams play?
Everybody played Saturday. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good, because I thought as we get further in the playoffs, we are playing Sunday.
Some days are on the schedule, championship weekend, and it all depends on how many facilities are available. See, they're pulling up Southern's turf on November 4th for refurbishment. So we lose some of our facilities online, so we scramble a little bit because it's not just football. It's field hockey playing playoffs this time of the year. Soccer is out there as well. So a lot of scrambling for turf time and turf facilities coming up. But
let's pray the weather is good this weekend.
We desperately made sure it didn't matter what nook and cranny we had to tuck a game into. We made sure everybody was playing on Saturday this first week.
That's good.
So we didn't have to go on Sunday. Not that it would have mattered because we have turf facilities, but man, if you'd have had to play in a monsoon
that was monsoon
Sunday.
conditions on Sunday. So let me ask you, today is Monday morning after a emotional opening round of the playoffs. We don't have any reports coming into Reckin Parks, do we? Please?
I have not, as of the time we're taping, seen any reports of
complaints of coaches or parents. No,
Zippy.
Everybody's happy. Everyone's happy.
Haven't seen anything as of yet. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. We got plenty of time though for that to happen. Good behavior in week 1. Let's keep it going for the second week of the playoffs. Right. Speaking of behaving well, my goodness, my friend David Faust in South River, suffocating defense, tremendous offense. Now, just when you thought maybe they were a little ripe for the picking after playing an emotional game with Broadneck the week before, they roll out here and blow Old Mill out decisively this past week. And 47-9 victory, and might be the most decisive victory for them throughout this season based on the competition they were playing on Friday night.
Real statement game by South River. It shows how much I know. Old Mill had won 6 in a row. Old Mill was at home. South River, I figured, was due to lose. It's hard to be undefeated in a regular season, but South River made a strong statement, and at this point, they are the class of Anne Arundel County. It's pretty much over. They've got one more game, which they should win, and I'm sure that Coach Dolch doesn't think that way, and that's part of the reason why South River's been so successful. Coach Dolch has done an amazing job of keeping them on point, focused on the next opponent. South River has not gotten full of itself. They are on a mission, a much larger mission than just going undefeated during the regular season. But that would be a major step in the program's history. Not even the great coach Joe Papetti, Anne Arundel County Hall of Famer, coached an undefeated team at South River. So this would be a huge season in the history of South River football.
I think Eddie Dolch, by the way, former running back for the Chargers in Anne Arundel youth football.
That's right.
Up.
Oh, he passed the Chargers.
Tremendous program.
Played at McDonough.
Coming out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, and look,
good football player.
We keep talking about it. I mean, David Faust finished with 200 yards passing. 142 of them going to Mr. Leonard. I mean, both of those guys got to be first team.
Well, then, so is the running back, too, Johnson. I mean,
Yep.
they may have the top player at the 3 skill positions. You could argue that they've got the best quarterback, best running back, and best receiver. And we got to presume they got some darn good offensive linemen because Mr. Faust has had more than enough time to throw. Mr. Johnson's had plenty of room to run. So you got to figure that offensive line is pretty darn good.
Not only that, Sean Leonard, by the way, in addition to having touchdown catches of 22 and 40 yards, he also had an interception for the Seahawks defense as
playing
well,
two ways, playing defensive back. But great season for South River, and appreciate Coach Stoltz, always responsive to sending in some highlights for the Gridiron Review television show.
Scored on 4 straight possessions in the second quarter of that contest. Old Mill actually got out first, led 3-0 in that ball game as Jackson Burleson hit a 42-yard field goal. But South River with a tremendous rally from that point, and they went at Delvin Johnson with a 46-yard run to set up a second connection for David Faust as well, as they win it by a score of 47-9. Delvin Johnson racked up 113 yards on the ground in the victory there. Meanwhile, Northeast, after having their season kind of blipped for a moment with forfeiting for an ineligible player, they bounce back as they get the win over Southern. Miles Macon rushed for 154 yards on 23 carries and scored 3 times in the win. Jaden Roberts also added 65 yards and a touchdown. The Eagles in the contest ran for 340 yards. Pretty impressive outfit from Northeast against Southern the other night.
Right, well, and that was bad news. And, you know, I guarantee you we're going to find out that the ineligible player was not even an integral player. It always works this way. It's someone that is not even crucial to winning and losing, ends up costing them a game against Mount Hebron, which, you know, that's going to, I think, one of the few wins Mount Hebron's going to get.
Big in terms of, and big now that the expanded playoffs are out there, it's big because
it affects
you lose
everyone.
A game, right, everybody
People
loses a bonus point.
People who beat Northeast are losing bonus points because of that win being taken away. But good to see them bounce back and get a win. I think they're still going to be in the playoffs. They'll have a playoff game. I don't think this is knocking them out. And then poor Southern, are we looking at a winless season?
No, they've won one game. Remember, they
beat
Centennial.
Right. That's right, they beat Centennial. All right,
so they got one more to go this week themselves. So they at least got back in the win column and broke the long losing streak this year. Speaking of losing streaks, Severn snapped theirs as Joseph Kentowski caught a pair of touchdown passes from Jacob Darrow in a 40-12 win over the on-again, off-again Mount Carmel football program. One week they seem to be having a team, and one week they don't. So it's at least good for Severn. They get off the schneid with a nice victory there for the Admirals.
Yeah, it was an odd situation. I was told early in the week that this game would not be played because Mount Carmel does not field a team. And lo and behold, they somehow came up with a team in time to lose to Severn. So that's good for Severn that they got this game in. It would have really been ashamed if they had, I guess it would have been considered a forfeit. It's a scheduled game.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're able to play and get a win and feel good about themselves.
Thomas Irvin had a rushing touchdown for the Admirals in that one as well. Austin Tudis threw a 27-yard touchdown pass with little more than a minute left in regulation to get the game to overtime, but McDonough eventually beat Spalding 25-22 in the extra session. You almost wonder, Spalding, and look, private schools, it's a completely different deal. They can go play whoever the heck they want. They'll play their handful of MIAA conference competition, but with those other games, Spalding go out and play anybody they want. You almost wonder at times if, because of those games that they played where they were traveling, beating some great football programs, you know, puts them in a little bit of a bind here as the season goes along, a little bit of that wear and tear, because now they've lost back-to-back games to very good teams, but games where they were just right there and just couldn't make the one play they needed, maybe even defensively, to try and win these games against Mount St. Joe and now McDonough.
Right. Well, it was Calvert Hall, actually.
Calvert Hall, rather, yeah.
They played Mount St. Joe this weekend as a big showdown because Mount St. Joe is coached by Anne Arundel County resident Rich Holzer, and they have a large contingent of Anne Arundel County athletes on their team. When you talk recruiting, Mount St. Joseph and Spalding are going to head-to-head because Mount St. Joe is coming into Pasadena, Glen Burnie, northern Anne Arundel County to try to find some players, especially now that Rich Holzer has a connection in the county. That's a big game, and also Spalding needs to win that. You know, I exchanged email with Kyle Schmidt after the game on Friday night, and he said it was a great high school football game. They were right there. They kicked a field goal in overtime and then gave up a touchdown. McDonough's undefeated. I tell you what, they have been down a little bit and they've got a new coach because Dom D'Amico, after a long run at McDonough, stepped down. But this is an outstanding McDonough team. But Spalding, this year there is a tournament. The MIAA A Conference is going to have a postseason tournament. Spalding is going to be in the playoffs, and as Coach Schmidt said, we still have a chance to win a championship, and they've got to figure they were right there with Calvert Hall, they're right there with McDonough, so they got to believe that they're as good as those teams, and when come playoff time, postseason, maybe they can win a championship. They got to beat Mount St. Joseph. You don't want to finish the season on a 3-game losing streak against A Conference opponents.
Right, and also, I mean, look, nobody cares who wins the $5.99 trophy when it's all said and done. Everybody will celebrate. We celebrate winning. We love to do that. Nobody's going to care who has the trophy, but it's about player development and playing great competition, and that's exactly what Spalding has been able to do, not only with their A-Conference opponents, but playing an outstanding, challenging out-of-conference schedule as well. Arundel beat Glen Burnie 52-13. Austin Sly 18 of 26 for 219 and 2 scores. Jordan Andrews had 103 yards rushing. Ryan Witt threw for 120 in the loss for the Gophers. Broadneck beat North County. Josh Ehrlich throwing for 166 and 2 scores. Davion White with touchdown runs of 8 and 39 yards as Broadneck gets even at 4-4. And at least the last couple of weeks here, the offense has seemingly gotten cranked up because they put 41 on the board against South River last week. This might be a Broadneck team that I'm not sure anybody wants to necessarily face, especially in the first round of the playoffs, because where the expectations have been on Broadneck the last couple of years, I don't think Broadneck's going to have the same fervor. I don't think anybody's going to have anything for the Bruins going into the playoffs, and yet they might be a very dangerous club with one more week left in the regular season.
No, I don't think you want to play Broadneck in the postseason. I mean, it's a winning club, a winning program. Coach Rob Harris is they're going to improve, of course, as the season goes along. They're well coached. And Josh Ehrlich seems to have found his stride, and we had heard early in the year they were young along the offensive line, and some of their offensive struggles were a result of problems along the offensive line. Josh Ehrlich was running for his life. I think maybe they've got those corrected based off the numbers we're seeing from Mr. Ehrlich. So, no, I wouldn't want to play Broadneck in the playoffs. Absolutely not.
No, indeed. Severna Park beat Annapolis 7-0. Casey Fox scoring the game-winning touchdown on a short run with just over 6 minutes remaining in the game. Falcons now get to 3-5. Panthers drop to 3-5.
Hard to believe, 7-0. I mean, I could have sworn Annapolis scored some points in that game.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I mean,
must have been a great defensive effort by the Falcons.
Every now and then, man, we see it. I mean, you get a decent defensive game. And, I mean, that's what happened in this one here. You know, defense isn't, I mean, it's not optional. You're allowed to play it. And Severna Park and Annapolis did that on Friday night. What a weekend at St. Mary's. First of all, let's talk about the football team as they get another win, 42-7 over St. Paul's. Keshawn Dantzler rushed for 135 yards, 3 scores. Chris Golini with 72 yards and a score for the Saints. They're now 6-3 overall, 6-1 in the B Conference. Gabe Souza with a touchdown reception, and Michael Coit returned a fumble for a touchdown. Also, congratulations to Sarah Heary and the St. Mary's volleyball team winning their first ever conference championship. Of course, her husband, Mike Heary, is the color commentator with me for Navy basketball, one of the top 5 players in Naval Academy basketball history, great shooter, and their daughter Brooke,
on the team.
Yeah,
right?
their daughter Brooke plays on the team. Sarah, in her first year as the head coach at St. Mary's, leads them to a championship. So,
and they've been on the cusp of winning championship. They've been there and lost, so that was a big step forward for them. With regard to football, they're in the B Conference championship. They have run they're 6-1, I believe, in the conference. The Pilati, it's going to be Pilati.
Sure.
That's who they've got to overcome. That's who got them in the regular season. But you know, same thing. For 2 or 3 years in a row now, St. Mary's played tough out-of-conference competition, lost a couple games early, but when B Conference play rolled around, they were on point. Coach Jason Pedroni does a great job with that program, and they're going to have to try to take down Pilati to win a championship.
Yeah, and finally, and let's face it, too, the great thing about Jason Pedroni is a little consistency.
Yeah,
a little continuity.
Well, that's what St. Mary's
in that
needed.
position.
Yep.
No doubt
and
about it.
hopefully he'll stay around a while. He's a good coach.
All right, we come back. Navy wins a big one against Tulane at the buzzer, and Maryland unfortunately falls short against the Gophers. We'll talk about that when we return on the Gridiron Review. Bill and I were in Annapolis on Saturday as Navy ran out to a 24-0 lead in a Western Conference showdown against Tulane. Green Wave came roaring back as you would expect, Bill, quality ball club, but how about the rocket leg, little Bijan bingo?
Yeah.
Bijan Nichols, the kicker, freshman for Navy, from 48 yards on a kick that would have been good from 60+ to win it for the Mids at the buzzer. Navy bowl eligible now, 6-1 on the year.
Well, what a crazy game it was. I mean, Navy came out, just played perfect football for just over a quarter. Tulane could not move the ball, 3 and out 3 times in a row. Meanwhile, Navy, 4 straight possessions getting points, 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Our boy, our new guy, sophomore fullback, Jamal Carruthers, he can go. He is exciting to watch. I've got to listen to your call on, but you've got to come up with some
Well, he
sort
had
of
4
nickname.
touchdowns. I mean, you got options. There's 3 touchdowns on the ground and 1 obviously on a pass reception. I got to give credit to our color commentator, Joe Miller, my partner on those games. We talked about this, and he said, if you go watch, Jamel Carruthers' highlight tape, and he said that to Ivan Jasper this week. He said, do you envision him on being a guy that can catch the ball? And sure enough, they throw him the ball, and he goes 31 yards for a score. So
on all 4 of his touchdowns, not a glove laid on Jamal Carruthers. So
he runs away from people, which is rare.
Does. He's got some burst, some acceleration. If he gets in the open, he's gone. Coach MIAA said we're used to having Malcolm Perry do that. We know our quarterback can do that. It's nice to have another player who, if he gets in the clear, he's gone. You're not catching it.
First time Navy's had 2 100-yard rushers in a game since the Virginia Bowl game in the Military Bowl. They darn near had 3 rushers because Nelson Smith had a heck of a game as the B-backs combined for like 230, almost 240 yards on the ground.
But this game turned like you wouldn't believe. It's like Navy jumps out to a 24-0 lead. You figure this is going to be a rout, and all of a sudden, clearly Jack Curtis, the defensive coordinator of Tulane, figures something out because suddenly Navy couldn't move the ball at all. They were the team going 3 and out. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field of the coin, Justin McMillan, the quarterback for Tulane, starts getting it going. They're mixing the run and the pass, and Pete, they wore down the Navy defense.
Yeah, they did.
And in the second half, Navy was missing tackles like you would not believe.
And I think the fact remains is I'm not sure if the 2 kids that Tulane played at running back might not be better than their 2 starters who are not playing right now due to injury. I mean, those guys look fantastic. Mr. Spears, Mr. Carroll, Mr. Jones, they all look fantastic. But Willie Fritz is a good coach, and he's got things certainly going in a positive direction at Tulane. But what a bounce back, though, for Navy. 3 wins last year, and they had to do some internal soul searching about the program, and like good programs do. They may be down for 1 year. They're not going to be down that second year. The one other time under Ken Niumatalolo, Navy didn't make a bowl game. They bounced back and had a heck of a season the next year. So they've not had 2 straight years under Ken Niumatalolo or Paul Johnson, for that matter, before that. They've never had 2 years in a row in their triple option that they didn't make a bowl game. It's amazing consistency for a service academy program.
Well, and I wrote last week, Coach Ken Niumatalolo deserves a lot of credit. He had to make some very hard decisions. He had to let some friends go. He had to shake things up. He had to get pretty aggressive with his athletic director and say, I want this, this, and this. We're competing in a big-time conference, and we're seeing this year just how big-time the American Athletic Conference is. They're going to have a nationally televised ABC game.
SMU in Memphis this week. You can watch it on Channel 2 locally here.
Right, it's a big deal. That's a big deal for the
Annapolis
conference.
area. There's no question.
And we're already looking ahead. I mean, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but SMU Navy is going to be a heck of a game in Annapolis, the regular season finale. That's going to be a great game.
You know who Navy plays the week before that?
Notre Dame?
Notre Dame at South Bend.
Well, let's hope they don't get too beat up.
I'll tell you what, if Navy wins this week against UConn, they were 27th in the AP poll this week. Mm-hmm. If they win this week and get a couple of teams in front to lose.
2 nationally ranked teams?
2 nationally ranked teams in the Navy-Notre Dame rivalry for the first time since 1978.
That'd be pretty neat. That would be neat.
If it happens, let's hope that
Maryland's not ranked.
There. No, they're not. They were earlier this year, but not now.
Very briefly.
Tyrell Pigram is not a Division I quarterback, unfortunately. He's a guy probably would be great in the CAA or somewhere in the FCS. Continues to get hurt. He's been hurt his entire career. Not the biggest guy in the world, but the only option really Mike Loxley has right now with Josh Jackson not quite being ready to go. And Maryland ends up getting hammered by a really good Minnesota team, 52-10. I know a lot of people don't like PJ Fleck's shtick. I do. I think it's great. And he's got a good thing going. They got a chance to win the Western Division and be in the Big Ten championship
They're unbeaten.
game.
I mean, that's all you got to say. Minnesota's unbeaten, and they put a beat down on Maryland. that was never a ball game.
And
And
Tanner Morgan, their quarterback's been pretty good.
yeah,
It's been worked out quite well for P.J. Fleck and company this year. Meanwhile, Ravens had the week off, getting rested and relaxed as the leaders of the AFC North. And the Browns, who everybody thought might win the North this year, they continue to stink it. It's a little malodorous. Ooh, get yourself some Renews It, Lysol, spray the room. Browns lose to the Patriots this week. So
300th career win for Coach Bill Belichick.
yes, sir. Bill Belichick,
He's in-
Indianapolis high school graduate.
Very, very select company with the likes of Don Shula.
Vince Lombardi, Don Shula.
Yeah.
I mean, those
Yeah.
guys are legends, Hall of Famers.
So is Bill Belichick.
I think we're all going to go to Canton when Bill Belichick, all of Annapolis, let's go to Canton.
I
when
know
Bill
I'm
Belichick
gonna go.
gets nominated there one day. I'll go with you. I'll drive.
Yeah,
How
all
about
right.
that? I'll drive.
Make it a road trip.
Yeah, you can just chill out on the side there. Look, Redskins played Thursday night, and they lost to the Vikings. 2 straight competitive games, though, by Washington under Bill Callahan. Real simple philosophy. We're going to run. We're going to hog time of possession. We're going to
Shorten
keep
the
it
game.
close, shorten the game. Defense has played better. Just not enough offense. Case Keenum gets hurt. Dwayne Haskins has to come in, and man, does he look like a deer in headlights playing
Yeah, he's not
quarterback
ready.
in the NFL right now.
Yeah, they're going to have to run the ball more if indeed Keenum can't go and Dwayne Haskins is forced into action. They can't rely on his arm. He throws interceptions, but AP with a little bit of a rejuvenation. And where did he's now where? 4th all time in rushing yards?
Yep, not bad. 14 for 76 despite having a high ankle sprain and a low ankle sprain in the game. I mean, the guy is just a gritty, gutty guy, Hall of Famer. He will certainly be in Canton one day as well. Look, another week of the playoffs coming up in youth football. Go to aacounty.org, go to team schedules, find out where your team is playing. They'll be at a turf facility, and that's going to be important. Have you seen the forecast for this weekend?
If more rain?
Bring your raincoats and your trash bags and your whatever you're going to wear to keep yourself dry. It is supposed to rain all weekend long here in the Annapolis area. So be prepared as you head out to turf fields. And remember, no dogs at the turf fields. Clearly says it on the sign. Don't show up with them, please, because the monitors will tell you, please take those dogs outside the stadium.
Right.
For Bill Wagner, I'm Pete Medhurst. For our man Marky Mark behind the scenes, thanks for joining us this week for another edition of the Gridiron Review.